Welcome to Quality Perks, the podcast that not only delves into the intricacies of contact center quality management, but also uncovers the personal stories of industry leaders. Brought to you by BPA Quality, your trusted partner in enhancing customer experiences.
And good morning and welcome to Quality Perks. I'm Karen Dupree and I'm with Neil Eggers. We're hosts and our guest is Utibe Bassey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go to the clipboard as I often do because we got some great guests and Utibe's got some great credentials that I want to make sure that I get correct. So we have Vice President Customer Experience at Dominion Energy. And you come to us by way of MBA, Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. So Utibe, welcome to the show this morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We were just discussing how both Utibe and Karen are in Virginia. How's the weather out there today? Everything kind of calm and this time of year?
Sun's out. You can see a blue sky.
It's pretty calm.
Okay. Fall
in the utility world, yeah, it's a nice day. It's a nice day in the utility world.
Leaves start changing? Yeah, I'm in Florida, so we don't get any of that, but
a little bit here. I'm in Southern Virginia.
Yeah,
so
a little bit.
Awesome. So Karen, as we always start out our conversations with our drink of choice, what are we working on today in your office?
I am drinking Cafe Du Monde.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee and chicory with my almond vanilla creamer, and it's delish, and I totally recommend it. And cheers.
That's delightful. Utibe, what do you have today?
I'm a tea drinker.
All right.
Fortnum and Mason's elderflower, strawberry and rose. Silky infusions this morning, and so I am always with the tea. I think Fortnum & Mason makes good tea.
What's one of the questions we always ask is consumption of tea. Are you like 1 cup in the morning and that's it, or is it throughout the day?
It's pretty bad. I think there's a longer story that I won't tell as to why I don't drink coffee, but I drink tea. But I drink a lot of tea, so I would say 2 to 3 bags of tea a day most days. So
you and I, we speak the same language because I have what once was a triple shot of espresso. Now there was ice in there, so now it's from Starbucks. Fans of the show will know my personal feelings on Starbucks, but as my daughter calls it, Starbies. Here we are with my triple shot. Yeah, I've gotten some flack over the episodes about the amount of coffee that I drink. That it's 5 or 6 cups a day. I've tried to bring that back because people are worried about my health, but we're trying. What works and makes us get throughout the day is important.
The people are worried. It's good to have people that care.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, yes.
And there's studies that show. Well, there's studies that show that coffee actually makes you more intelligent, keeps you living longer, keeps you energized.
I think she was looking at me when she started that. So Utibe, thank you for joining us today. One of the things we wanted to talk about is a passion of yours, and that's love as a KPI. And I just wanted to get your input and insight as to when you say that and you speak about that, what are you referencing?
Yeah, well, it's a phrase that sort of embodies the notion. I believe that when organizations are primarily driven by love for people, not only, but primarily being their goal as a company is to love people. And I can talk more about what I mean by love. It's not a mushy feeling. It's not an emotion. It's not, as I say, it's not high fives. It's not positive vibes, but it's truly your intention towards people. If that's the driver, whether the people are your employees, your customers, your shareholders, your people in the community, I believe that creates even better financial outcomes, strategic outcomes, operational outcomes, all the things that we traditionally want as in business. You get more of that, and you don't sort of have people be the collateral damage of how businesses run, which often happens. And I know that's like strongly worded, but it's true. And so love as a KPI, the premise really is if we measure the things, right? A KPI stands for a key performance indicator. If we measure the things that are meaningful to us, right? And we all measure something in our personal lives and our professional lives, or we're measuring operational metrics, financial metrics. Should we also be measuring the impact on people? And I don't mean just simply the impact on people as it relates to us, right? So oftentimes we measure, customer satisfaction or things like that. They're good measures. This is not either or. This is both. This is a both and conversation. But we measure those things to measure how the customer or the employee or whoever feels about us. It's really still about us as opposed to them. What was the impact of their interaction with us on them? Did we leave them more filled with hope? Did we leave them more depressed? Like after they've interacted with us or worked with whatever that interaction is, whether again they're a customer, employee, or they just happen to live in the community that we operate in, what happened to them? And so love as a KPI basically is built on, if we're measuring things, should we also measure the impact on people? And that loving people really is a strategy in itself.
So you touched on a key phrase there, the intent. Love is an intent. So not, talk us a little bit through there. When you say love is an intent, how do you measure that, or how do you introduce it, and then how do you measure it for success?
Of course. So the definition I have, and I think introducing this notion of love as a KPI, I've been talking in sort of business, professional, formal settings about love. It's a very sort of strong word. Everyone has their perception of what love means. And so I don't, my goal is not to say that's wrong or that's right. I don't just share what I mean by it. Love is the outcome, right, of the perspective. So how you see people, the posture, like your posture towards people, and then the practice, which is your actions. It's the outcome of your perspective, the posture and practice that prioritizes. I'm not trying to have alliteration for the sake of it, but that prioritizes the need of another, the betterment of another person. So it's always about another person. So it's the perspective. And I think perspective is key, because if you don't even see people as worthy, if you don't see people as worth the time, as worth the effort, if you see people as a means to an end, if you see people as a tool to get your business outcome, or a tool to make the money, or a tool to drive the strategy, if people are a utility, then it's sort of it stops there. But if you see people as valuable, if you see people as even if these people, again, customers, your employees, whoever, how we see people is what determines everything. But when you see them, what's your posture towards them? How do you treat them? And then actions really are the actions. And so where that's true, and we all know where that's been true for us in our personal lives. We all know where people have seen, we know, even if they don't say it, that they see us as a means to an end. Or we know what it means to be treated as, right, you work here, the goal is this, you are not the goal. And we know the opposite, hopefully most of us know the opposite of when someone has seen us and valued us. We know the response we've given, right? And so I'm tying this to business success, because oftentimes there's this fake firewall between what we know is true in our day-to-day lives and what we expect in business. We know that when we've been seen and been treated a certain way, that elevates us, that shows us there's more possible, that shows us there's more in us. We respond to that person or that place with loyalty, with telling people about it. We may not call it loyalty, but there's something about that. So it's the same thing, right? Whether it's a teacher, a person, a leader who has done that for us, right? They may not have called it love. They may have not called it anything at all, but we know the way A, it left us being, not just feeling, and B, sort of the impact it had on our ability to recommend that person, work for that person, stay longer. It's the same thing that we want in business, right? And so it's basically trying to break that invisible firewall that we have between who we are in our quote unquote regular lives and sort of how we run businesses.
Yeah, it's almost it's very company value-esque, right? So in all the companies that we work for, you'll see the company values hanging on the wall, and how we want to carry ourselves and how important our customers are. But those are usually just values. What you're talking about is how you actually do it, right? That's the show me moment. How do I actually deliver and get that type of reaction from our employees, and then our employees turn around and activate that behavior with customers that they're speaking to. And while you were talking, I was thinking, I call it the 1,000 call stare. Maybe you have agents who are, working all day and they've got, thousands of chat transcripts or social transcripts or calls or emails that they've been responding to. How do you, that's hard to think about love and to see that customer for who they are, give them the attention that they need, because the reason they're contacting you is real. It's very real. But to you, you may be like, okay, this is the 50th time I've heard this complaint today. I know where the answer is. And you may not educate that customer the way that they may necessarily need to be educated, or so that their feelings and complaints are validated. So how do you go about, implementing or teaching or training agents to live in this world where it's every call is important? You have to, what's the structure look like?
Yeah, I'll definitely, yes, it's a great question. I think it's the question I get the most often. With Love as a KPI, I believe the root of it. All right, let me back up. Whenever I ask people just in broad audiences, when you think of a great customer experience or a great experience, just overall, what company comes to mind? There are a few that come to mind consistently. People say consistently. And I've asked this question dozens and dozens of times. I'm sure I've reached like 100 times, like a lot of times. And there's a reason a few companies come up over and over again, because there's something about how people are left feeling after interacting with those companies that they have systematized. It's not a fluke. One example, better or worse, hate them or love them, is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A comes up all the time. I make the joke that Chick-fil-A has the people in the chokehold. I ask this question: East Coast, West Coast, North, South, what company comes to mind? Chick-fil-A. It's not that everyone's going to one Chick-fil-A restaurant. All the Chick-fil-A restaurants that are around the country that people go to, it yields the same outcome for them. How do they do that? Well, there's a few things. One, there's a kind of person who works at Chick-fil-A. There's a kind of way they think. There's a kind of way they operate. There's not just the people in the front line. There's a kind of person who designs there's an intention, right? And so with Love as a KPI, I try to encourage people to focus less on what are the 10 actions I need to take. The question is, who do you need to become as a person? Who you are, your actions then are an outcome of that. And so again, just think about the people that we know who consistently, everyone who meets them has the same great things to say about them. There are people who are very popular, very well known, but they make every single person feel like the only one in the room. How do they do that? It's who they are. And so the work to be done, I believe, in this era of leadership is less. It's not just training. It's how are people becoming? How do we shift the perspective of people as people who are just genuinely becoming more loving? It's from that everything else comes. And so you may be someone that is given a list of, here's 3 things to remember as you're taking calls. But after the 5th really frustrating call, you're going to revert to who you already are. It's not sustainable. And so I believe, but if you're someone that's actively becoming, and there's a whole sort of depth on that process of becoming, it's not really different from how we become who we are now. But if you're someone who's actively becoming more loving, you're saying, okay, I see you. How you talk to people is going to show up, even when you're tired and you don't mean, and you don't feel like it. So it's really a function of who we are, as opposed to a list of things in a 10-step program. And so the work that I would love to do with leaders of the enterprise, nonprofit, government is the work on them becoming who they need to becoming a leader that naturally sees people as worthy and valuable. You don't think of people as tools. A leader that naturally postures themselves towards the betterment of others, and a leader whose actions speak that, whether they're working or they're in the grocery store or they're home. A leader whose family would say the same things to them as their coworkers would say. It's who you're becoming, less as a list of things. So that's the work. It's much, quote unquote, harder. I don't think it's that much harder, but I think it's much harder and less, tangible as here's a checklist. I think checklists are good. I think checklists give you, in fact, sometimes the action can generate the becoming. But I think the end goal is just having a cadre of leaders who are actively on their journey. You're never done. You're never like, I have reached level 10 of being a love-led leader, and so I'm done. No, it's continually becoming. But again, we know people whose lives are just this way, and so they get the outcome over and over and over again. And that's why I started with a company, because it's true in companies as well.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I was thinking about your example of the company. I'm sure we all have examples of leaders throughout our careers where you can put them kind of into categories of, you had that leader who led with love, kindness matters type leader, and then you've had others who don't, who fit into a different category, and the reactions from staff and the performance of the teams is probably dramatically different based on those styles of leadership. Not to say that one is good and one is bad. One has roles in certain organizations and certain departments, and that may not translate to other departments. So certainly when you're that customer facing, that customer experience group, you need to be thinking about that kindness matters and love as a KPI. I think, do you...
Can I challenge that, Neil? Just sorry.
Sure.
Because it's not department. It's not about a department, and it's not about niceness. There's a big difference about being nice and loving someone. So one of the other things that I get a lot is, okay, it's about being nice. It's not about telling people what they want to hear. It's not about skirting from the truth. It's not about excellence. It's not about It's all of these things, performance, excellence. I don't expect that because I'm in a customer role now. If I switched into a finance role, this goes away. It's just about how we treat people. There are people in finance jobs, there are people in supply chain jobs, there are people in accounting jobs, there are people in operational jobs. At the end of the day, the needs of people are the same. So I wouldn't align it only with the corporate function. And it's not about niceness, it's not about being friendly. As I said, it's not vibes, it's not high fives, it's not good feelings either. Think about, again, just in our personal lives, I always want to bring people back to what we already know before we sort of put on the suit of being a corporate person. Think about the people who we know loved us, but there's such a thing as tough love. They didn't always, right? If you love your kid, you don't say you can have whatever you want, drink all the soda, eat all the candy. Sometimes you have to give tough feedback. That's also love. And so it's who you are at all times in any job, knowing that. And again, it's not about giving people everything that they ask for. I don't believe that every customer should get every single thing they ask for. No, that's not good business sense, but they should know. I'll say this lastly. And I stole this from one of the leaders at Dominion Energy. And he said it, and I've been saying it everywhere. We're talking about CX, and he basically said, this is about giving people the benefit of the doubt, giving our customers the benefit of the doubt, so that if we do something that they don't like, they trust our intention towards them, right? And so think about customer experience that way, particularly for utility. If we're doing something, introducing a program, putting a meter, or doing something that the customer's like, I don't know, I don't like it. We want them to say, however, I trust Dominion Energy's intention towards me. Think of it as a leader that's that way, right? Whether you're giving bad news to the team, you're setting a standard, you're introducing a program, you're cutting a program in the finance world, whatever it is, you want to be a leader who naturally people trust that your perspective on them, how you see them, your posture towards them, how you act towards them is with their best interest in mind.
Right. And consistently and holistically.
100%. And from there, you're leading. From there, you're designing products and services. From there, you're launching things. So I agree. I would just say that it's not tied to a function. It's just who people are.
We need to continue this. I need a master class. I need to go to one of your events and delve into this a little bit deeper. And very intrigued on it, because the impact that it does have is huge. And I've honestly never looked at it. The word love, like when you kicked us off, right? That's a strong word. And sometimes I think people are sets them off, or maybe it makes them uncomfortable, and it doesn't need to be. And I think from this conversation, I've learned a little bit about how to interact and how to move forward. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
But yeah, it's a great conversation. Thank you for joining us. And one other thing I was going to add, you talked about the Chick-fil-A example, the type of people that they bring on, that they look for this type of, structure, the way people are, right, and the way that they think. And it ties me into, like a psychometric, philosophies that we have here at BPA, and designing these types of analysis and tests to specifically figure out who those folks are. That deep inside them, this is, love is a KPI make some churn. So that's some, we should get Faye, our psychometric
that'd be
analyst,
awesome.
and you together on a future Quality Perks, and just
have us read. That would be great.
Let you go. It would be fantastic.
Yep.
But
we're actually doing a live event next week on psychometrics, where Faye and David is our owner of the company, or president of the company now, where they're talking about how psychometrics can be used in management in the contact center, and measuring performance. So this is definitely right in that wheelhouse as well. So
you got to make sure you attend and start peppering him with questions as
absolutely
as the presentation goes forward.
Please.
Utibe, Karen, thank you so much for today. Great conversation. We look forward to having you on again in the future. And have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.